What is up, everyone? Good morning and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Marvel Rivals, and you guys better strap in. This one's going to be a little bit of a grueler. As you can see by the scoreboard here, we are going to do 85,000 healers exclusively, almost exclusively as Luna Snow. So let's get right into this replay and see what happens. These definitely do feel like two of the most popular healers, so I figured I would do a video on this. This guy has a ton of hours on Luna, and especially in these higher ranked lobbies, to be able to put forth those kinds of numbers, definitely very, very important to your team's success. So if this is a character that you kind of want to get a little bit better at, figured we could go through and see this guy's target priority if he does anything different. We'll try and pay some special attention to where the Snowflake is as well, choosing to put it on the Groot off the rip and choosing to heal these DPS, as they are going to be needing that primary healing. A little bit less priority healing on the tank right now, as they're just walking up to this first point. So using his left shift to get a little bit of extra damage, trying to take this Hela off of high ground. Groot gets a nice pick off the rip here, and there's not going to be a whole lot of damage returned here as they take out the Doctor Strange incredibly quickly. Snowflake still on Groot here, just pumping those auto attacks into him, trying to keep him topped off. And they are two healing here, so it is going to take a little bit longer to get all of that giant health bar rocking and rolling, but getting some nice shift damage along this hallway here. And I'm curious if he will ever move that Snowflake from Groot. It looks like he's just going to be content keeping that there. Cloak and Dagger going for the touch, but they're pretty staggered, so his team is just going to be fighting a 6v2, 6v1, 6v, yeah, whatever. So they're going to get this first point pretty easily and get off to an absolutely monstrous start here. How do we feel about this new Luna skin? Is it W skin? L skin? What do we think? I think it's pretty cool. I think in-game it looks pretty cool. I think the MVP is a little bit kind of mid, but the pink and blue is kind of alpha, you know? Just going to sit on cart here, being the little cart pusher. Roll in the background. Rocket just kind of walking around doing some stuff. Making sure that this cart is able to get a little bit of distance. Kind of just throwing out his right click just to see if he can get a nice little pick there. Pocketing this Punisher. Still hasn't moved the Snowflake from the Groot here. And his team is actually just kind of gapping them, so it kind of seems like that's something that's going on. Pops his ult when Groot ult does come out. The enemy Bucky does also commit his ult right into Luna ult, so probably not the best idea there. He does end up getting two just because of line of sight, so you definitely have to be careful with that. There is some other issues with Luna and her, like the verticality of her ult as well. So if you're above someone or you're standing on cart and someone's standing right next to the cart, sometimes you won't actually be able to heal them. So definitely a good thing to keep in mind, especially if you're a Groot player, if you're able to make that cover and line of sight people from that Luna ult. As you can see, it did play a pretty big role. Bucky was able to get two. They're able to get people off the point even through that Luna ult, which ordinarily wouldn't really be possible. So I am also going to be looking for another healing replay where there's a couple dive members on the enemy team. Like, the ideal situation would be like a Cap, Spider-Man, Venom, or something like that, and just seeing how a pro player deals with that sort of pressure. He's kind of not pressured at all in this sort of situation. There's a little bit of cleave damage, and there's the threat of the Bucky ult and that sort of thing, but I think it would be interesting to see how good players really do deal with that pressure, and deal with that really heavy dive, because he's able to just kind of use his right click as much as he wants, not needing to save it for any sort of assassin that's on him. His Punisher gets another absolutely monstrous ult, able to take out all the members of the enemy team pretty much with the help of everyone else backing him up, making sure to pop that Luna ult to keep him alive. But I think it would be, yeah, like I said, I think it would be interesting to do kind of a series almost where you are seeing every single different healer dealing with that pressure in different ways. It's probably going to be more of like Invisible Woman, you know, Luna, Loki, those kinds of things, just because Rocket he doesn't really deal with the pressure. He just runs away and no one can really catch him. So that's kind of my go-to switch when I'm getting just absolutely run down by people. Switching to Rocket, something like Cloak and Dagger, where I have a little bit more self-healing, that sort of thing. Luna needing to rely more on that right click, freezing her assassin, getting a little bit of heal up, and then having her team turn around to help her out a little bit. Luna ult coming out from the enemy team, not going to be able to keep anyone alive. Actually, I don't know what they did there. Did they even ult? It looked like someone ulted there, but Namor is able to one-shot them anyway, so it doesn't even matter if they popped anything. Yeah, Groot Namor is pretty filthy as well, so if you happen to have a good Groot that you play games with, definitely try and combo with a Namor or a Moon Knight. We have seen a Moon Knight in the one of the last replays that we looked at. And once again, this Snowflake is on that Groot. He is not wavering at all, just keeping it on that second tank. This feels very World of Warcraft to me. I don't know if anyone else in this watching this video has played WoW, but if you play a Holy Paladin, it's a very very Beacon of Light sort of vibe. For the rest of you that haven't played WoW, I'm sorry. Not trying to exclude you, but you know, if you know, you know. Popping his ult a little bit late here. They've already lost 2, but I don't know if I approve of this ult fully, but it kind of looks like the enemy team gives them a ton of space here. Pumping a lot of heals into this Doctor Strange. Hasn't really had to heal his DPS a whole lot in this game. It feels like most of that healing is going into either Strange or Groot, which probably just means his DPS are playing really well, and Rocket's able to keep them up a little bit easier with that Rocket healing, a little bit better cleave, slightly lower numbers, as Luna's able to keep up those tanks. Popping his shift to try and keep this Punisher alive, unfortunately is taken out by the Bucky there. And then Punisher Bucky ult just absolutely runs down his team here. Going to get pushed off the point with just about 2 minutes left on the clock. Quickly skating back to point. Wasn't a whole lot that they can do there. That's just too much damage coming through. Nothing too crazy there. Steps up really far forward here. I don't know about that one, Chief, but hey, we are still doing it. Once again, putting that Snowflake on the Groot, making sure to kind of keep his camera focused a little bit near this Punisher just to make sure that he can stay nice and healthy. Punisher's able to get the Bucky taken out, rezzing the Moon Knight there as he goes down. And then we do see the Loki ult on the enemy team, copying that Cloak and Dagger ult. Groot walling the rest of the team off, trying to help them step back a little bit more, making sure that his team is full on HP, not focusing a whole lot on damage in this replay too. I think a lot of his damage is not going to be super consequential. I think in these higher ranks, it really just is that ult that decides the fate of the battle here. Enemy Doctor Strange still landing a very good kill on his Punisher, but Luna ult does come out here, so going to be able to keep the rest of his team pretty safe. Unfortunately, not able to tag the Groot with it in that last little bit. I think he was worried a little bit too much about the backline there, and he just kind of neglected them a little bit, hoping that the Rocket would be able to keep them alive. Bucky does try and ult in on the Punisher, and the Bucky Punisher ult is once again going to come in as a nice little high damage combo, taking out most of his team. They are able to actually trade a couple kills on. He's able to get a nice pick on that Bucky there, turning on the Jets and doing a little bit more damage in this situation. Trying to help his team run down the Rocket there. Seems like he's a little bit lost, doesn't really know where to look, but hey, here we are. That is okay. Still a pretty dominant game so far. Famous rapper able to get a nice pick on the Punisher. Stagger him pretty well. And the enemy team does just kind of throw here, it looks like. Holy crap. They are just getting taken out, creating a nice stagger. 6 seconds on the Bucky, 10 seconds on Strange. Not able to get anything cohesive going on here. Groot walling him off, not able to heal his tanks, but he still has that Snowflake on Groot, so any healing should go over there as well. No access to that shift because it was used earlier. Thankfully, his Rocket and him are able to help keep his team alive. Damage boosting while this Doctor Strange has his ult out, and then switching back to healing to keep this Groot alive, making sure he gets him back to full HP. And they should just usher in the win and get that first round victory with a score of 3-0. Then we will step forward just a little bit. We still have 3 rounds to go, so I told y'all to buckle in, and we are still going. Staying on the Luna here, and let's just peep the scoreboard real quick. Already done 30,000 damage in the first round, or 30,000 healing in the first round. Not a whole lot of damage compared to some other rounds that I've seen, but still is keeping his team very safe. Punisher is going to be doing, let's see where he's at. Yeah, that Punisher is doing an absolutely ridiculous amount of damage here. So keeping him and the Moon Knight alive is going to be huge against this Groot, and the Strange being able to get through them. Taking a little bit of poke damage, still keeping that Snowflake on the Groot there, making sure that his front line stays safe no matter what he's doing. Enemy Groot ult does come out, so going to be in a little bit of danger, especially because he needs line of sight on his tanks to be able to heal them. Can safely look to the right and heal that Punisher there, knowing that his Snowflake is on the Groot, so if Groot is going to take a little bit more damage, he'll be able to stay a little bit safe. Unfortunately, taken out by that Bucky there, but they're able to trade 2 back, taking out the enemy Groot and the Punisher there. Looks like a res came through as well as Groot comes back very, very quickly, and then popping his shift to pocket this Punisher, help Punisher do as much damage as humanly possible, able to keep him alive, not quite able to tag him with that ult and keep him alive for the last little bit there. I don't know how that Doctor Strange dies. I don't know. Did he just get DPS'd through? What's happening here? I don't know. I'm going to rewind just a little bit because I'm curious. Did Doctor Strange anti-heal him something or something like that? So this is where the Groot comes back. Punisher ults. And there we go. We are just pumping heals into this. So yeah, we are trying to get the ult here. And then Doctor Strange does actually anti-heal himself there, yeah. So as you can see, if you watch yesterday's video, we do go over that as well. You want to make sure that you're spending that Doctor Strange meter, because if he hadn't anti-healed himself, this fight would have been way, way cleaner. Thankfully, Groot is able to get a 3-piece there, able to chase down the Rocket, run down the other Groot, get a nice stagger on him as Rocket is up in 4 seconds. He's up in another 8 after that. So feeling pretty good. Still 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock, though, so the enemy team has a lot of time to still get something going. Popping that Rocket Infinite Ammo Beacon up on high ground over there. And still just keeping that Snowflake on Groot. Focusing on healing these squishy targets. Making sure they get to do their damage. Using his left shift. Doesn't seem like there's a whole rhyme or reason for when he uses his left shift, but you know, trying to time that with ults coming out, making sure that he has that big burst healing coming through. His whole team is just going to be line of sighting here, staying out of line of sight of that Punisher ult. Doctor Strange getting a beautiful ult there. Unfortunately, the enemy Doctor Strange does return the favor, taking out a couple members of his team, walled off by Groot, trying to step into this hallway to keep his Moon Knight alive, and then stepping back to point to keep the rest of his team alive. So that's something you don't see a whole lot of Luna's do very often. I mean, he's very good at knowing when to step off the point, where to go with the ult to get maximum value. I think a lot of Luna's would just kind of stand AFK on the point and just say, hey, you know, everyone come to me, I'll heal you. But this guy does. They do lose the fight, but I still think that was interesting that he, you know, makes sure everybody is full health on point, sees someone else that needs his help. They're like, okay, these guys are fine for at least a second or two. I'll go over, top this guy off with my ult, and then run back. Still have a few seconds. Make sure that they're topped off before that ult ends. So very good use, very good movement, very good awareness. Putting the Snowflake on the Punisher here with Groot absent. And then getting a really weird kind of full right-hand flank over here. And then as soon as Groot appears, yep, we're getting the Snowflake right back on him, replicating that healing to that target, making sure Groot stays nice and safe. Gotta protect NLE Choppa. Got to. Getting right back into the thick of things. Already almost farming up an ult. Steps way too far up here, in my opinion. I don't know what he's... I mean, he's trying to get an angle with those Groot ults, but definitely putting himself in a bit of a bad position. Pretty much stepping directly into that Doctor Strange ult. And I think that should have been on the tanks to realize that they were in a bit of a pickle. Doctor Strange definitely wanting to save this his left shift to make sure that he can go up and over these Groot walls if he really needs to. Popping the Luna ult to make sure that they can get the touch on this point here. Enemy Groot ult coming out, and they are just going to get a very, very scary combo with that Groot Punisher. Bucky following up some good damage. And the enemy team does end up getting that second checkpoint with just about 3 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock, so plenty of time to get to this last checkpoint. And I think this is just a pretty evenly matched game. I don't think anyone is been colossally throwing. I think he does throw a little bit hard there. That previous fight where he stepped up a little bit too far, but I don't think that is kind of the game changer at this point. It's a very evenly matched game right now. Popping his left shift to make sure that he gets all of this nice cleave damage with 4 targets pretty much stacked up there. His Moon Knight getting a nice pick on the rocket, but they do trade the Groot back. Going to be forced to back right up. Luckily, they do have the rocket res on the Groot there, so they're not going to be completely out of hope. And he's able to focus this squishy target, still keeping Groot a little bit healthier on high ground there. With the help of that snowflake. Is very cautious not to waste his left shift here. Popping it right as the Doctor Strange ult comes out, knowing he needs a little bit more burst healing. Unfortunately, the Cloak and Dagger on the enemy team ults to keep her team completely safe. Punisher going absolutely monstrous for the enemy team there, taking them out, and they're going to be tying up the score with a 3-3. So let's see what the third round has in store, shall we? Let's do it. Let's get right back into it. Staying on the Luna, still committing to that. Putting the Snowflake on Namor now. I think he is still looking to put it on that Groot, it kind of seems like, but focusing a lot of these squishies here, moving over to focus the, and there we go. We see the Snowflake back on that tank. Able to get that big healing into those squishy targets, pretty much getting, 2 or 3 auto attacks to get them back up to full HP, keeping Groot a little bit healthier while he does it. I think a lot of Lunas definitely try and keep the Snowflake on like a Namor or something like that. So it's interesting that this guy tries to keep it on the tanks, making sure those people stay alive, and then he's able to play a little bit more attention and keep his DPS alive. His Moon Knight goes absolutely monstrous here and gets a nice 2-piece with the help of his auto attack to get the 4th. Finishes off one more with the Doctor Strange there. And his Doctor Strange is going to opt to use a portal here. And I think he's just going to try and wall off this little part right here. His Namor is up really, really far, so I don't know if that's playing a role, but he might also just be... I don't think you can scout anymore with... Oh, the portals do come out. I don't know where those are. Could always just go back and rewatch this replay, but I don't think those are going to be super impactful to what is happening right now. The enemy team is already here. Doesn't look like they had any issues getting to point. Popping the Luna ult here as the Groot ult, Cloak and Dagger ult, and all that comes out. Gonna be able to keep his team alive even through that CC. And then right before Luna ult ends, Doctor Strange actually commits ult too, so not able to get a whole lot of value off of that. I think the Doctor Strange could have just held his ult for a couple more seconds. Would have had a ton more impact, able to take out the Punisher as he ults too. So a couple very, very bad ults used from the enemy team, and then his Doctor Strange is able to retaliate there. And that's where Luna ults can be extremely, extremely powerful. Throwing that Snowflake on the Namor actually now. And there we go. Pumping some heals into these tanks. Trying to keep as many people alive as he possibly can. Looking to do a little bit more damage and finish off this rocket. And now they need to focus very, very hard on staying on this point going into overtime. They have gotten a ton of distance off of this though, so I'd imagine they're feeling pretty good about this amount of progress. But the enemy team does actually have 3 minutes on the clock, 3 minutes and 24 seconds, so they need to get as far as they possibly can with this payload here. And now we actually do have the Snowflake on Namor, trying to keep him alive. So I think that's interesting that as soon as they switch to Namor, he does have the Snowflake on him. And then popping Luna ult, getting it back just in time as the Groot ults him. Cloak and Dagger all coming through, so lots of safety being provided by his team. Able to get a nice Groot Namor combo, taking out 2, taking out another one after that. Finishing off the Cloak and Dagger, and they're going to be able to round this corner almost towards the second point here in overtime with just that little sliver on the clock there. And I almost feel like the enemy team is going to give this up and just kind of let them take this second point, regroup, and fight after this door opens. That does look like what's going to happen. They don't have access to Portal 2, and they don't have anything that allows them to touch. No access to Luna or Cloak and Dagger ult there as well. He's going to go up to high ground here. I don't know where his Snowflake is. Snowflake is still on Namor, trying to pop his left shift to keep people up through the Doctor Strange ult. Punisher able to get 2 members of his team, but they do have Eye of Agamotto coming in. Friendly Eye of Agamotto able to take out both of the main DPS on the enemy team. Just getting some bunny hops here to keep his Doctor Strange alive. And they do get pretty much everybody with just, even after losing the first 2 people on their team off the rip there. Getting an absolutely ridiculous amount of distance here on the cart. Keeping that snowflake on the tanks now. Switching it back to Namor. Making sure they have that consistent damage to be able to farm him ult as much as possible. Since that Groot and Namor combo has been working out very, very well for them in the last couple fights here. Groot and Namor playing very nicely on this left-hand side here, staying nice and far behind them. Unfortunately, Groot is going to get hooked in and taken out. Successfully farming Luna ult again here. Strange dropping down to be in that. And we're just standing right inside our team, making sure we're damage boosting as much as we can. Strange once again trying to get a big ult. Not really succeeding there, unfortunately. Switches over to his left shift. Actually uses it for damage, killing the cloak and dagger that's behind them. Since there's not a whole lot of damage going on in his front line, he's pretty much topped everyone off through all of those ultimate cooldowns. And the enemy team does not have access to a whole lot of stuff. Hella ult and Bucky ult coming up in just a second here. But Strange getting a nice ult right in their spawn. And they're going to be able to make a miraculous push in record time, sending the score to 3-6. So let's see what the enemy team is able to do in this last little section of the game here. And we're going to stay on Luna as we have the first 3 rounds. So this is a great reminder to subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video if you liked it. And comment. I always like responding to you guys in the comments. I think a lot of people have a lot of really good constructive criticism, you know, on these style of videos, that sort of thing. And I always appreciate any sort of support, ideas, anything like that. So, and I appreciate looking at you guys' comments every single day. So thank you to all of you that have left a comment, whether it was good or bad. I really do appreciate all of you taking the time out of your day to make me a part of it. So thank you guys so much. Going into this last round here, I think we're just going to be kind of ushering in this 3-minute victory, kind of looks like. Not entirely sure what the Jeff switch is on the enemy team. I don't know what they're doing. I don't think that Jeff is doing a whole lot of anything, but we're still keeping that snowflake on the Namor. Pretty much no pressure on the Luna here. Venom going in on pretty much the front line right there. He's not able to get a whole lot of pressure. The flanking Jeff, which I've seen in a lot of different games nowadays. He's not going to be flanking a whole lot. Jeff ult coming in. Don't think he actually gets anyone there and gets absolutely demolished by Namor. Enemy Luna ult comes out, his cloak and dagger ult, so he is going to be holding his Luna ult. Should be more than enough. And we do see that Groot ult come out from his team. Good follow-up damage from Doctor Strange and Namor to take out a couple more members of the enemy team. Hopefully they can get this. Wow, that was a very nice freeze on the Venom there. That was very nice. And he's just going to be flopped right there. So close, yet so far from his spawn doors. And we now have that snowflake back on Groot, keeping his front line a little bit safer, turning around to heal the back line, knowing that that healing is replicated to that Groot. Finally getting a little bit more pressure as the Venom finally goes for him. But still has access to ult, going to be able to keep his team safe through this Bucky ult, just positioning where he can heal the most people, not even going over to damage for a second here. Does switch for a split second. He's able to stay alive in that invulnerable, or what should I say, unstoppable state from the Doctor Strange ult, but Strange is able to take out the rest of his team. He shortly follows. Just under a minute on the clock. That timer will not reset if the enemy team does get this first point, so they are going to be playing for overtime at this juncture. Not a whole lot of ults available for either team here. Gets a nice freeze in the Venom, not hitting him to make sure that he's just kind of sitting there. Doctor Strange probably pinging his team fully back here. They've all spawned. They all have access to this spawn up here and not jumping through the portal immediately. Just pumping left shift into that Doctor Strange. Unfortunately, he's taking way too much damage. Venom is actually able to jump through this portal here and put a little bit of pressure on his back line. The Venom Jeff pivot was definitely interesting. I think they might actually be doing better with that than they have with the other stuff that they were playing earlier. So I don't know. Maybe that was the vibe, but I think Venom is crazy underrated. I don't know. Jeff getting a pretty televised ult, but still going to get one. Some great aim here coming in. Jeff probably not going to be able to get all the way to the ledge over there. Ends up getting demolished by that Moon Knight. Namor getting one more. And they are in overtime, so if they do wipe the enemy team here, it's going to be bad news bears. Luna ulting to try and get that touch, but Moon Knight ult coming in to try and zone the rest of the team off, and they get the victory 6-4. So I did promise you guys a grueler at the start of the video, and that was indeed a grueler. So we'll see what the final stats are at the end, even though you guys saw them at the beginning of the game too. But very, very hard-fought battle, very, very good ult usage. He does keep the Snowflake on the tank pretty much the whole time, and then switching it over to Namor once they do get the Namor. Not a whole lot of damage being done by the healers or anything like that on his team, but the Moon Knight is absolutely pumping, so doesn't even matter. And he does do 85,000 healing, which is the most I've ever seen in a game. So let's just appreciate that for what it is. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video if you liked it, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.